There's a fear of Brazil. Well, there's a couple of fears of Brazil, fears that foreigners have. Now, I'll split them into two different types of fears. The fears before people actually come to Brazil, where they don't even know what they're talking about, and then there's the fears after they arrive, which I call the day-to-day fears of living in Brazil. Now, the fears before we come to Brazil, let's talk about them first. These are the ones that are created by watching TV shows, or by watching the news, or by watching some outlandish documentary, usually showing violence in an impoverished town where there'll be gang fights and there'll be people killing each other. And that creates a fear for foreigners before they come to Brazil. And then there's the other fear, which is shown on documentaries, shown on the Discovery Channel, on survival programs, where people are off in the jungle and they'll be surrounded by caiman crocodiles or piranhas or whatever it is, wild animals, wild snakes, wild spiders, and there'll be that fear. And these fears are genuine. Before people come to Brazil, they'll be having these fears, and because they've been watching these ever since you can remember, there's been documentaries about gun violence in Brazil and documentaries about piranhas and snakes and giant spiders and things like that in Brazil. And this generates a fear which stops a lot of people to coming to Brazil in the first place. However, once people arrive in Brazil, most of these fears dissipate in the first 24 hours. They realise they arrive in a holiday resort in a beautiful, charming place, or they'll be in a nice little fishing village where I live, or they'll be going on some nature trail or something like that with a guide, and they'll discover that they're not going to be getting eaten by piranhas. They're unlikely to get bitten by a snake, and they're also not likely to be hit by gunfire in the middle of a war zone or shot down in a helicopter. These things are very, very, very unlikely to happen. However, when we start living in Brazil, there's a whole load of new fears that take over. And I can remember when I first arrived in Brazil, one of the stupidest little things, you're probably thinking stupid, I used to get nervous. I'd be fearful of going into the supermarket in case the lady in the till would ask me how I was going to pay for it, because I wouldn't understand what she was saying. And this sounds like something small. She'd be asking me if I'm paying with a card or if I'm paying with cash. I wouldn't have a clue what she was saying. And I'd start getting nervous about going into a supermarket. It's like an irrational fear of embarrassing yourself in front of a stranger who you've never met before. Or worse than that, you try and go and visit to a doctor or something, and then you start feeling ashamed because you couldn't explain what was wrong with you. So again, you'd be fearful about going to the doctors, you'd be fearful about going to the dentist. On top of that, you'll be fearful when you get your first bank account. You don't understand how things work here. And I'd be afraid to ask people, I mean, what should I do? But everyone would know. They'd be getting what's called a cena, which would be like a little piece of paper with a number on. I'd find myself sitting there for hours, not knowing how to get served. Now, you'll probably be watching this if you're Brazilian, thinking, well, this gringo's an idiot. But I can assure you, it's not just me it's happened to, it's happened to others. We don't know, and it's scary for us. It's scary, but luckily, with time, these fears, they dissipate. The main thing that's helped me lose these fears was learning the language. I mean, seriously, when I first come to Brazil, I'd only known a little bit of Portuguese. A lot of these fears which I had would have been taken away automatically, because I'd have been able to ask the question, and I wouldn't have been afraid to ask the question, because I wouldn't be afraid again of making a fool out of myself and getting embarrassed. Because that's another fear that we have. As a foreigner coming into Brazil, we're told that Brazilians, only 5% of them speak English. And us English, or Americans, or English speakers, the majority don't have a second language. They're amongst the laziest people in the world because they think that the whole world should be speaking English. But that's not the case. But the fear is when we arrive in somewhere like Brazil and we have to talk to people, oh my God, we've got to speak to people in their own language. But we forget. We think, oh no, I have to learn something. I can't learn to speak another language. And we start programming ourselves to think, no, it's impossible to learn another language. But just like when a baby learns to walk one step at a time, learning a language is about just learning one word at a time. And to get rid of a lot of these fears is just by learning those words. The fear of dealing with a lawyer, the fear of dealing with a doctor, the fear of, all these fears are taking place. But really, the real root of the problem is just not learning the language. So, as a foreigner, if anyone asked me, Paul, what would you recommend us to do to alleviate fears before we come to Brazil? I'd say, well, the main thing is learn the language. Another fear, which I see a lot of foreigners have, they have a fear of investing money into a country, and they're worried about they're going to lose the money. And again, that creates fear. But what can I say to those people? Get some legal advice, get some legal help. Don't try and be too gung-ho. What other fears are there? I know there's people here are frightened of the food. I can remember the first time I see feijoada and I see an ear hanging out of the pot. I didn't know. I'd never seen people cooking ears in a pot before, and that for me was fearsome. However, once I overcome the fear and ate a feijoada, I realised it was awesome. It was fantastic. It was a great meal, and now I'm happy to get stuck into a gnaw or into a pig's trotter or into a cheek. Stuff that in our culture or in our country we're just not used to eating. What I can say, I've got rid of most of my fears living over Brazil, but in the last couple of years I did have one fear which was different than the other fears, which is my fear of stopping drinking. I had a fear of giving up drinking because I thought if I give up drinking, I'm going to lose my social life and I'm going to lose everything. Now, on a serious note, I gave up drinking just over 9 months ago, and now, with the help of this YouTube channel and the help of my community in the YouTube channel, and now people around me are finding that people kind of becoming more accepting. And once again, it was a fear which I personally had, which I didn't need. And overcoming it now, I'm feeling that I can share these things with you guys. And if there's anyone out there who's giving up drinking, but they're worried about doing it, let me say, it starts off rough, but it only gets better. And just like when you arrive in Brazil, it might start off rough. Now, there's someone called Patrick in my comments. He wrote in my comments telling me he had a bit of a rough time in the first few months. He's 68 years old. However, from what I'm reading about him now, it's all doing good. So listen, Patrick, thanks for your comments, mate. And feel free to comment again. Also, I've just hit over 500 subscribers, which for my little channel is massive. And that's happened in the last few days. So anyone who's subscribed in the last few days, thank you so much. I really appreciate it from the bottom of my heart. I had no idea that this would ever happen. So I'm so happy, and yeah, thank you all very much. My name's Paul, and I'm a gringo living in Brazil more than 20 years. If you like this kind of content, do me a favour, like, comment, share, and most importantly, subscribe.